I hope we've got.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Hello, everyone. Hello. Hello.
Good afternoon, or good evening, or good morning, depending where you're connecting from.
Where I think the majority it's afternoon and evening, early afternoon over the pond. Yeah, on the other side of the Atlantic. Right. Okay. Hello,
I still
everyone.
can't get my head around those sort of things. It's still mad.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. So, hello, everyone. Nice to see you all. And we're going to be talking today about a very exciting topic. And welcome to our free live event, which is the ILCA Expert 2024 series, where every month or every second month, depending on how we organize things, we invite an expert in their particular field relating to language coaching, language and communication coaching, teacher training with a coaching slant. And this month, we've got an expert in the field of teacher training and coaching, so 2 in 1, so it's going to be very exciting. And Pablo there is going to be talking about agency, which is a topic which is perhaps more, how should I put it, not so much in the mainstream, but I think it's very important and growing in importance. So we're going to be looking into that. First of all, if you could just throw into the chat box, everyone, where you're joining us, so that we have a kind of mental picture of the geographies that are here. So just into the chat, I'm Gabriela Kovac. I'm a co-founder of ILCA, and I'll be hosting here. And I live in Hungary, in Budapest, in the center of Europe, and this is where we will be hosting our conference in June. Hopefully you will be able to join us. If not, then for compensation, we've got Pablo here. Pablo, say a few words about yourself, please. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. If I can jump in real quick, Gabriela. Yeah, just to say thank you, and it's an absolute pleasure to be able to contribute to ILCA and to the community, at least like this, online. Like Gabriela said, I was supposed to be attending the conference in June, which looks absolutely mad. It looks so good. But unfortunately, I can't make it. So here we are. Here I am online. So thank you for providing that alternative.
All right. Okay. Now, what I can see, we've got Sweden, Washington, Italy.
Wow.
Everyone else is either sleeping or just kind of hesitant. I know 2 attendees from Hungary, and yeah. So I'm not sure about everyone else. We'll see. Okay. So as we join in and tune into this, briefly, okay, we've got someone from Paris,
From
my favorite
Paris.
city.
Excellent.
Wonderful. Okay, lovely.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Vicky. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you.
And Caroline as well.
So a little bit about what ILCA does. We do everything related to language coaching. We offer free books, ebooks. We offer free talks, webinars. We've got a new stack of cards, which is fantastic. So something very practical if you want to dive into that. And of course, we've got our field program, and recently an ICF accredited program worth 28 CCUs. So if you're ICF certified coach, then you can dive into that program starting in May. Both programs are starting in May, and of course our conference June 7th to 9th in Budapest, which is looking to be quite amazing, to be honest. I'm blown away by all the speakers, all the organization. It's jam-packed full of things for everyone, and hopefully we'll see you there. So let's move on then, Pablo, and let's just dive in. Okay,
let's get going. Okay, so that's my cue to go to the next slide and get started.
Yes. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Gabriela, and thank you, Elena, as well from Russia. I want to encourage everybody, as far as possible and as far as everybody feels comfortable, to put your cameras on, and feel free to chip in, opening your microphones whenever. There is a section for further questions afterwards. towards the end of the talk. But throughout, I'll probably be kind of like just asking questions. Again, feel free to participate either with your mic or through the chat. So without further ado, let's get going then. Alrighty, let me just check. Here we go. So, like Gabriela was saying at the beginning, the main topic of conversation in today's talk, or what I'm bringing to the table today, is agency and how we can empower education through agency. And agency seen obviously as one of the aspects, one of the main aspects for me in coaching, or that coaching can bring. So I want to share with you some quick facts to get us going. I'd like to do a show of hands, but perhaps you can just do it in the chat if not. How many people are coaches themselves? How many people are teachers? Can we have a very quick look? Thank you very much, Rita and Caroline, for joining us like this. Let's see. So if you could put in the chat, thank you, Gabriela. If you could put in the chat whether you're a teacher or coach or both, maybe you could type one of those three words and we can do a quick see. Teacher and coach. Thank you, Martin. Teacher. Thank you, Hind. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. Helena, both. Teacher, coach. Okay. Both. Teacher. Okay, thank you very much. Can I also ask if anybody's in any leadership positions? Are you in charge or leading a team of teachers, or perhaps leading a team of coaches? Or are you representative for an institution? Are you perhaps the owner or the director of a school? Okay. Lead coordinator, thank you. And DOS. Yeah, department head, excellent. Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for sharing and helping. That's going to really help me sort of gauge, and then I know more or less where you're all at to keep going. So, like I said, I'm going to share some data that I've taken from a couple of reports from Google online, and it might not come to any surprise to any of you who are coaches who have experienced coaching that these are the top 5 reported benefits from coaching. Self-confidence, improved relationships, communication, interpersonal skills, so I think very, very related, and work performance as well. And this same report actually commented on how coaching was seen more as a service for the elite, because the report came from having investigated coaching in elite businesses, from the top sectors and top markets. So these are, we could argue, top performers of each sector. So if they're benefiting from coaching and dramatically improving their performance, their health, and their happiness, well, what's going on in education? And are we perhaps a little bit late to the game in a sense? Well, we are arguably not, because there is coaching in education. There's some very fabulous organizations that contribute towards education with coaching, for example, such as ILCA as well, with language coaching. And they reported, this is from another study, these benefits. Some of them overlap, and obviously some of them are perhaps more specific to the actual sector or the actual industry of education, such as the penultimate one, improved teaching practice. Now, I would have personally have liked to have had a bit more information on what exactly improved teaching practice meant in this report, but nonetheless, interesting to highlight or to find it as one of these benefits. The reason I'm showing you this data is because I think it's all possible because of the main aspect that coaching brings to the table, which is the main topic of conversation in this talk, which is agency. Now, I'm going to define agency, or the way I'm using agency in this talk, and if you hear me talking about agency, what I mean by it is the ability to choose, or the ability to choose how to act. That's the definition if you look it into the Cambridge Dictionary. So For me, it's the most agency understood like that. It's the most empowering and transformative aspect that coaching can bring to the table because it places the client or it places the person receiving the coaching at the driver's seat. Uh, it makes that person the protagonist of their learning. So it's also to me the next evolutionary step from autonomous learning or autonomous learners. I understand autonomy as being able to be independent, but agency, having an actual say, having an actual choice, and choosing how to act, to me goes beyond just simply being independent. So, having said that, you might be wondering, yeah, why is it so integral to learning? Well, to me, it's active learning. It means that if you have agency if you're in your learning process, then you're engaged in active learning. And I'd like to quickly take you back to when you were children, or perhaps you have children now. Um, and I'd like to bring you back to a moment in your life when you were a child and you were perhaps doing something potentially detrimental to your physical health. Perhaps something like this. Now, if you were anything like me, or if you were brought up in a environment where there'd always be, or mostly always, there'd be a responsible adult near the vicinity. Um, if I were doing this, I would be getting told all sorts of things. Get down, you're going to hurt yourself. It's going to end in tears. Um, and again, more often than not, I just didn't really listen and I carried on doing what I wanted. So in these instances, through me enacting my own agency, through me choosing, from me having the ability to choose how to act and how to carry on, I learned exponentially. Whether I fell or didn't fall, I learned from it. But it was because I actually followed through on my own actions. I had, or I took that choice. Okay. Um, so if you can relate to this sort of situation in your childhood or perhaps with your children, um, this would be an example of exercising agency. And it's very similar to what I feel we do as coaches with our clients, with the people we work with. Um, and a further point in favor for agency is that if we foster and encourage and give that space and those opportunities for people to exercise their agency, we also, oh, any Spider-Man fans? All right, thank you, Gabriela. So one of the most famous Spider-Man quotes is, open question to everybody. With great power comes great responsibility. Thank you, Stacey. Absolutely. Okay, so with great agency comes great accountability. If we are providing the space, if we're providing the opportunities for people to choose, then we are a lot better able to share that accountability. I'll give you a quick example that I find in my teaching context here in Spain. And is if you're preparing language learners for an external examination, be it Cambridge, Trinity, or any other assessing organization, they often come and they say, oh, you're the teacher, you're the expert, teach me. And you say, okay, you have to do this, this, and that for the exam. They go, they do the exam, they fail, and they come back to you and say, I did everything you told me to.
Hello.
Mhm. Hello, Clara.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you have anything you want to say, Clara, do chip in. So, um, if we are providing that space and those opportunities for agency, we are also creating a space in which we are co-creating, co-sharing that responsibility of learning, of the learning process. Therefore, the accountability or the responsibility of the learning doesn't fall on us as the teacher entirely. because the other person has been given that space to actually enact and be an agent in their own learning process. Okay. I'd normally ask for a hands up if you're with me so far, but perhaps just type something in the chat. If you're with me, just type in yes, 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 or with you, and we can move on. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you very much, guys. All right. So in that case, let's move on. So now that we've established the definition for agency and some of its possible benefits and how it shares that option for accountability, how exactly can we encourage and champion agency in our working environments in education? And this is for the rest of the session. I'm going to provide, we're going to look at 3 different aspects. 2 of those are techniques, and one of them is an actual element that I find integral to coaching itself. So to get us going, I'd like to share this spectrum, this continuum. And you see, traditionally, you'll probably identify the things that we have experienced in education, whether as teachers or as learners, within this red arrows, within this directive style, right? I believe we're all very accustomed to being told what to learn and how to learn it. We've been instructed on how those things have to be learned and how to do such things. When we haven't known, we've been given advice. And when we haven't been able to come up with any ideas, we've been given suggestions. And then we've been given feedback on our performance according to a criteria that was already set for us. And perhaps in most occasions, we didn't have much of a say in. So this is all, perhaps I'd argue, something that we're all familiar with in terms of education. And what I'm suggesting is that to encourage and champion agency in education, we start to move. I'm not saying abandon what we know works, because we know that those tools, techniques, that directive style is also effective. So I'm not saying abandon. I'm saying also let's include and let's get comfortable in moving in the full spectrum, in the blue lines as well, in the non-directive style, without opinion or judgment. So the first thing that we're going to be looking at are the first we could call purely non-directive style, which are open questions. The other elements in this continuum, we could have their own, well, definitely deep listening could have its own talk. Reflecting back and paraphrasing are very important tools as well. But I'd like to focus on the first one, which is open questions. So let's carry on. Now we're going to do a quick activity. And the task is to identify which questions we don't already know the answer to when we ask them. So I'm going to show you 10 questions here. And all of these questions have been real examples. They've been extracted from different educational contexts. So they're from the classroom, from classroom observations, in this case, English language teaching. And they're also from teaching observations. So where I've sat as a coach and observed the teacher teach, or I've sat with a mentor mentoring another teacher. So these are all questions that I've taken from there. And what I'd like you to do is, which ones don't we know the answer to when we ask them? We're going to do the first 2 as examples, okay? So question number 1, how are you? This is in the context of students come into the class and the teacher asks, how are you? Do we know the answer to this question? You can write it in the chat. Nope. Thank you very much. We can probably predict, especially if you're teaching teenagers. All right. Thank you to some extent. Thank you, Hind. Yeah. If you're teaching teenagers, you ask, how are you? Yes, we could probably predict that sometimes the answer is meh or something along those lines. But realistically, we can't possibly know what the answer is. However, if we look at question number 2, what's missing here? And again, in American English, it's not even a question. Oh, how interesting. I'd love to know. Caroline, let me know what the equivalent of this would be in American English, just out of curiosity? If we look at question 2, and in another teaching context in the classroom, when the teacher is pointing at your classic gap fill activity, okay, well, what's missing here? Does the teacher know the answer to that question? Thank you again, Caroline and Hein, for contributing. I'd argue that yes, when we ask those type of questions, we know what's missing here, right? If we've, in the specific context of language teaching, if somebody's made a grammatical mistake and they're missing a particular preposition, or they've got the wrong tense in there or something, and the teacher says, what's missing here? Most of the time, the teacher knows what the answer is, and they're just asking the class to identify it. Okay, so what I'd like you to do real quick is just type the number of the questions in the chat for which we don't know the answer to when we ask them. Thank you, Martin. There's more than one answer, eh? Thank you, Elena and Claire. We've got number 4 there. Martin suggested number 10. Six, 7, 9, 10 from Vicky. Thank you, Vicky. 7 from Claire as well. Thank you. 6, 7, 9, 10. Thank you very much, everybody. Excellent. Thank you. Oh, brilliant. So more or less, we can all agree. I'm going to start with the perhaps slightly less subjective ones. But number 10, what have you learned from this class? Absolutely. There's no way of, we would like to know, we would like to think that we know what people have learned, but there's no real way of knowing exactly what they've learned. And you could substitute class from this experience, from this session, from this talk. All right. So absolutely, we don't know what the outcome or what the answer to that question is. Number 9, when are you going to do your homework? There's also no way of knowing when they're going to do it. And perhaps if we're asking this question, the learners themselves haven't actually considered it yet. So when we ask, when are you going to do your homework? It's an action question. And we are, to some extent, making them aware and making them have a commitment with themselves as to when they're going to be doing this action. We also said 7. What do you think would happen if next time you tried doing things like this? Again, this is from a mentor to a trainee teacher. And I agree, there's no way of knowing what the answer is. However, tell me if you agree or if you see my point here. As a mentor, does the mentor have his or her own agenda behind this question? Is it a bit of a guiding question? Right, thank you, Gabriella. I can see Gabriella nodding. Hein, thank you, yes. Just a bit, yes, thank you, Vicky. Precisely, and I know it's difficult to see the whole context just from written text, but in this case, it definitely felt so. And the reaction from the trainee was kind of like, where are you trying to take me on this? So a bit of a leading question. And could we say the same about number 6? What do you think went well and not so well in this class? I'd say this is perhaps a bit more open. There's a bit more room for play, right? If done correctly, it can encourage a space of no judgment in here, genuinely asking, in your opinion, what do you think went well and not so well? However, I think we've got to be very careful because, again, we might fall into having our own agenda and then saying, "Oh, you thought this went well and this not so well. This is what I thought as the more experienced trainer." Ah, Vicky, yeah, you got that from your Delta tutor. Thank you, Gabriel. It depends on tone and meta language. Absolutely, absolutely. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, everybody. The last one that we had was 4. People identified 4 as well. So who remembers what we did last class? Now, I'm actually going to take this one onto the next slide because it really makes my point, or the point that I'm trying to bring up. So, Caroline, the questionnaire needs to be very relaxed and wait openly, totally. Thank you very much. Another point that we're going to be making later on. Please pull me up on it when you see it. Okay, so we've got 3 questions here and 1 suggested question at the bottom, and I'd like to argue or suggest what the potential issues with these questions are. We've got question number 1, which was question number 4 before. Who can tell me what we did last class? Now, as a teacher, I don't know who can tell me, but I know what we did last class. So what's my intention behind this question? Right? I'm trying to probably elicit, I'm trying to probably get people to remember what we did last class. My issue with this is that it can probably be quite, it's a testing question. Who remembers, who can tell me, not who remembers, sorry, who can tell me what we did last class? So, I mean, not done it with that tone perhaps, but even so, it's a test of memory. So it's not very encouraging towards agencies, not very it's not opening everybody's options to chip in and participate. Because if I don't remember, I'm already disengaged, right? Because I don't remember, so I can't tell you, so why should I keep paying attention? The problem with number 2, what might be the problem with question number 2? Remember what we did last class? You could type it in the chat. A bit threatening, difficult to predict. Absolutely. The answer is just yes. Thank you. It's a yes, no. Excellent. Thank you very much. Absolutely. It's also still testing, right? Remember what we did last class. And then again, if people, even if people don't remember, they say yes, you're left in the same place. You're no further along. You still have to ask another question or what? Or you just, okay, good. And then where? So yes, it's a closed question. It's a yes, no question. Okay, what's potentially troublesome with question number 3? This one might be a bit more abstract, perhaps. Thank you very much again, Hind. Yeah, it's just, yes, I know. All right, we could just get that again. My issue with this is that it's a double question. Okay, what did we do last class? And then we don't wait enough. We don't give that space. And automatically, can you remember? Right? Thank you, Vicky, for contributing. It suggests there is a right, wrong answer. Also true. Different people had different takeaways from last class. Absolutely. All right. Definitely. Thank you very much, everybody. So what I would suggest is that we just ask the last question, which is, what did we do last class? It's an open question. And then we accompany with silence and we give people time and space to go and retrieve those answers. But some people might say, oh, we sat on chairs. Yes, we did that. That's correct. What else did we do? Ah, we did this other thing. Yes, what else did we do? We did this other thing. So we are openly engaging everybody in the learning process with the questions, with this type of questions. So to take you back to the type of questions that we ask when we're coaching, we could summarize that they need to be open questions as opposed to yes, no questions. We need to accompany them with silence. Now, by silence, I don't mean that we're just there quietly waiting for an answer. Whilst we're quietly waiting for an answer, we are actively listening. Okay, but again, that could have its own whole session. And then we've got to be grateful or either demonstrating gratefulness or just saying thank you for people sharing that answer as well. And if you keep this in mind, it's going to be an integral part to the following sections that we're going to do. So open questions that have silence to provide space and time to research, to find those answers, and thank you. Thank you is also very important because when you are thankful, I think it's very difficult to be thankful and judgmental at the same time if you're truly thankful, right? So in order to foster an environment where agency can grow, we need to completely remove judgments or prejudices. And that's why I think thankful is very helpful. So let's now move on to the wheel of normally life. Now, can I just have another quick show of digital hands if you've seen this before as a coach, if you've used it, if somebody's used it for you. It's normally seen as the wheel of life, but it can be adapted to many other aspects, professional aspects, personal aspects. Thank you, Rita. I could see you nodding. Thank you very much. Let me know again real quick in the chat if you've seen this before, the wheel of life or similar. Or open your microphones and tell me. Thank you, Xenia. Wow, I hope I'm saying your name right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Martin. Thank you very much, Hind, as well. Haven't seen it. Okay, so emotions, absolutely, Caroline. It can also be used for emotions, definitely. And it's one of my favorite tools to use because it is so adaptable and applicable to almost anything. And this is where we start to create a space for agency. So with the wheel of ... by asking, I could ask you, okay, what do you want to make a wheel of? And already I'm placing agency on you, the decision on you. Okay, what's an aspect that you want to concentrate on, that you want to analyze for your own improvement? We could start like that. I've made an example, just in case people hadn't seen it, like Hind. Thank you for sharing. And if we have time, then later on, we can get started on your own. So if I show you, the first step is to identify the pillars that make for, let's say, life itself. All right. In this case, I've asked ChatGPT to come up with some pillars for something in particular. Now, if you see these pillars here, what do you think it's a wheel of? The wheel of what? Waiting for your answers in the chat. Teachers' skills and competencies. Thank you. Self-assessment. Thank you very much. Coaching. Ah, absolutely. It could be as well. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to move on and tell you. Okay. So according to ChatGPT, these are the main pillars for the effective teacher. Okay. So now, this, whoa, there we go. Now, this would be from the beginning where you ask whoever you're doing this with, whether it be your learners, whether it be your teachers, whether it be your team of teachers as an identity, whether it be your institution, whether it be your language coaching, the wheel of first step is to identify what are the main pillars that make up that profession, that make up that stance, that make up that role. So you're already enabling agency. It's not coming from me. I'm not telling you that to be a good teacher, you need good subject mastery. It's up to you. What do you consider to be the pillars to be an effective teacher? So you're already choosing. Okay. Then the next step, as you can see, there are certain dots on here. Then the next step is to self-assess where you are in accordance to each pillar. And again, agency. It's your own self-assessment. I'm not going to tell you how much reflective practice you should do and how well you're doing it. It's up to you. So you choose where you grade yourself on here for each one. 10 on the outer circle being the top and 0 in the inner circle being the lowest. Following this, whoop, you ask the person to connect those dots. And then you ask, okay, so what does your wheel look like? This wheel to me looks like a bit of a potato, really. It looks a bit like a spud. All in all, I don't think that it would really turn very well. It's got some areas that are looking a bit flat. If it were to turn, I don't know that it would really turn very effectively. So once we've got this, we can follow it up with those questions and the type of questions that we were looking at before with coaching style questions. So then we can ask, in this case, the teacher, the spud coaching wheel. Thank you. Absolutely. We could then ask the teacher, okay, what's surprising to you from this wheel? How did you feel when you were doing this exercise? What's an aspect that has impressed you? What was better than you expected? What was worse than you might have originally expected? And we start engaging in this conversation through coaching questions in which we explore, or the teacher in this case explores, their current reality, their current situation. Then you could set it up by saying, okay, which of these areas would you like to focus on, to work on and improve? Again, it's agency. If we note down here, we've got a 4 down here, which I think was technology integration. But the teacher might focus on passion and enthusiasm, which was a 6 up here. So again, we need to enable that and not be judgmental. Well, why did you choose passion and enthusiasm when technology integration was lower? Okay, it's about giving that space. It's about providing that environment in which the person makes their own choices because they're experts in their own context. So say they choose passion and enthusiasm, we follow it up with questions. Okay, what is passion for you? What's the difference between passion and enthusiasm? How do you demonstrate passion? How do you demonstrate enthusiasm? How do you measure those things? And you follow them up with the objective of gearing towards an action plan to improve. Okay, so to create an action plan, you can follow the SMART filter. Okay, once you've explored and identified the actual reality of this person and what they want to work on, then, okay, well, how are you going to work on it? What exactly are you going to do? How are you going to measure it? How achievable is that for you? How realistic or how relatable is it to you? In what time do you want to see results? Okay, so again, these are all questions that are going to enable us to create that space in which that person can enact their own agency. Okay, I need another checkup. With me so far? Show me a show of hands or a yes in the chat. Thank you very much, Rita. Excellent. Thank you very much, Gabriela, for that. Those are smart goals as well. Oh, Caroline, did ChatGPT come up with? No, that just happens to be the image for the wheel. But thank you for the question. There were 12 pillars in this wheel. I would recommend perhaps between any number between 7 and 10 is a lot more manageable. It just happened. I just wanted to show more options. So that's why I chose the wheel that has 12. But through experience, I've found that clients, learners, teachers, institutions work best with a number between 7 and 10. It's a lot more manageable and a lot easier to identify. So thank you, Caroline, for asking. Even though you asked something different, but it was related, I felt. Okay, thank you very much, Elena, for the light bulb. You're with me. Excellent. Let's move on then, because how are we doing for time? Oh, no time, not a lot of time at all. Now, hopefully you can see the applications, or in your own contexts, you can already see how you could apply the wheel of to your own contexts. If you could think of any ideas at the moment or any ideas have come up, would you please share them in the chat? I'd love to give you the time and space to actually experience what it's like if you haven't already to do the wheel of but unfortunately we've got to move on. So let's close this off with just a few ideas on how you use or how you think you could use this technique, this tool in your context. Again, if it's easier, you can open your mic and share. I better practice what I preach and keep silence. Thank you, Clara. Work and life balance. Absolutely. Thank you, Vicky. The wheel of soft skills needed in the workplace, the wheel of employability skills. Absolutely. So what are those skills? What are those 7 to 10 skills that are going to make you more employable? What are the key 7 to 10 pillars to have a work-life balance, a healthy work-life balance? Absolutely. Heinz, yeah, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I would like to share based on the wheels. Uh,
Hmm.
I believe it's like more about self assess myself and when I teach,
Hmm.
like I go through them sometimes if I need any of these to develop any skills. Like for example, most likely like classroom management, especially I'm teaching more than 100 students in each class. So I need to figure it out how to control, how to make students understand the lesson. And so yeah, and I agree with you. This is a very interesting wheel. I would like to ask if you can share the wheel, the
Absolutely, Hind, I shall. I'll put a little pack together, send it to Gabriella, I believe. Gabriella, confirm if this is possible,
thank you very
and
much.
hopefully she can spread it through all the attendees. Thank you, Hind. I totally agree. You could make a whole wheel about management, classroom management, or management itself, however other aspects there are. I've also seen a few more ideas coming in here from Rita. For a pure language students, absolutely. What makes oh, wow, excellent. Thank you. We've got loads of examples there. Oh, excuse me. What makes an effective language learner? Absolutely. That's also I've done that one in class before, and it is an excellent exercise to raise awareness. Cool. So let's move on swiftly. Um, a spin-off of this. I hope you can appreciate what I did there, talking about wheels. Uh, a spin-off or another follow-up activity that you can do to engage, foster, encourage that agency is another coaching technique, which is the climber technique, or at least that's how I was taught it with the name of El Escalador, the climbing technique. And it gets its name because if you're a climber, I actually climb as well, so I find it particularly relevant. Um, if you've seen a climbing competition or people climb before, you'll see that on the ground, before they start climbing, they start doing this little funny dance, and you'll probably see them doing this, this, and this, and this, and then putting their foot up here. What they're actually doing is visualizing. They're actually going through all the different steps that they need to go through on the actual climb. Now, there's a whole science behind this, and if the brain has done that already, then it just believes that it's real. So this technique works on a similar basis, and what it entails is if you take your wheel and say we had the potato looking wheel that probably didn't turn very well, well then you take it to its maximum degree, and you ask, in this case we had the example of the teacher, so what would a round wheel of the effective teacher look like? What would that teacher look like? Take yourself to the future, and what would that teacher look like if it was so rounded that it had all of its pillars fully covered to a 9 or a 10? And then you start working on submodalities. So what does that teacher look like? How do they stand? What do they wear? What do they, and then we go to, so that's visual. Where are they? What does the class look like? What do their students look like? What about their colleagues? Then you work on the auditory channel. What does their voice sound like? How do they speak? How do they communicate? And then you work on the kinesthetic channel as well. Okay, so and you know, what's the temperature like? What's the quality of their voice? Is it warm? That's both auditory. So you start building this as holistic picture as possible in the future of what the round wheel of whatever looks like, and then you work backwards. Okay, so to get to that picture, what was the last step that you had to take? And again, you wait and you actively listen and you provide that silence. Okay, and to get to that step, what step did you have to take before? And then again, you accompany. Okay, and to get to there, what was the first step that you had to take? Okay, so again, as you can see, we're engaging it all into action. Reverse engineering technique, absolutely. Gabriela, definitely. I'm sure we probably have lots of different names for the same thing. So it's always really interesting to come together and connect those dots. Okay. And again, you can do this for learners. If it's a pure language learner, what does the perfect language learner look like? Okay. And then help them project themselves to the future where they've achieved that goal, where they are an effective language learner, for example. Or project them, you can focus it on just one aspect. We were looking at passion and enthusiasm. Okay, so what does a 10 look like? Passion and enthusiasm, and what steps do you need to take to get there? So it can be a holistic picture that for it to be really effective, you need to paint that picture as detailed as possible. Okay, so that's another way, again, that you can foster, hold, encourage agency, because we're being non-judgmental and it's within the terms of the person that's experiencing that. A 10 for me in passion and enthusiasm might look very different to you, to what it is to you. But it's not about me, it's about your passion and enthusiasm. Okay, so that brings us to a roundup of the general benefits, which these are just a few that I've added in here that I hope have become obvious. Do share any other ones that you can come up with. But what I'm suggesting with encouraging agency in education is that if we make a use or if we create a space for agency in education, then we're going to have learners, teachers, people, institutions that are more used to and more practiced in self-reflection and self-evaluation. This is going to be followed on and further supported by more critical thinking minds who can see things from different perspectives, who are more used to, more practiced, more accustomed, therefore, in decision making, because they will have had lots of practice in identifying needs. And this is going to result also in improved planning skills and following through and actually going on through that action to change things. And I think most importantly, the benefits of it as well are, again, to bring you back to the beginning, that sense of ownership, that sense of being the protagonist, that sense of being able to take the learning journey wherever they want to go with it, in the driver's seat. And also, very importantly to me, the fact that we allow the space and the opportunity for people to listen to their hearts and really think about what it is and that they want to do and how they want to do it without being judged. And I'd like to argue that if we do that, that will probably, hopefully, induce a society or a set of learners that can contribute to society a lot more richly and a lot more, I almost said autonomously then, exercising their agency. So, like I said, if you think of any other benefits, please share them in the chat. And now it's just over to you. Self-reflection. I had an idea of putting people into breakout rooms. I don't know what the options for that might be. If not, self-reflection, you can answer any of these questions in the chat and we'll pick them up.
In the chat, or we can now unmute perhaps and open it up into a conversation if anyone has any thoughts.
I'd love that. Thank you very much, Gabriela.
That would be great. Yeah, so kind of, shared self-reflection for everyone.
Beautiful. Thank you. So yeah, mic's open.
Yep. Stage is yours. Yes, absolutely. So opening up the circle here.
Definitely.
And thank you very much for everything that you've shared so far. And
Thank you.
there are a lot of takeaways. I'm just talking until someone, Rita, you've unmuted. Yes, we would go. Right.
Well, what I love about the whole concept of coaching in this way is that you don't go into a session with preloaded input. It's turning it on its head. But frameworks are helpful, though. I mean, that the wheel is a really useful framework, which I haven't used for ages. And I just thought, yeah, just thinking this about, yeah. And my takeaway is how many different ways you can use it, because I've sort of, it's almost infinite, really, how you could use it. As you say, I mean, my coaching is mainly one-to-one, but if I were back in a classroom, I suppose I did do that a bit, but I didn't tell other people about it. Because I was always, when we had inspections, I was always put on the defensive by where's your lesson plan? And I'd always say, I know what outcomes I'm heading for, hopefully, but how we're going to get there, I don't know. And also those outcomes will be determined by what happens within the session, and we might keep readjusting what those outcomes are going to be. Because there's so much we don't know about the people we're working with. So I just love that openness. And it's not that you're going in with nothing, but you're just creating that space and that silence, thinking, and the idea that this can actually improve society. It's not too ambitious a thought, really.
Thank you very much, Rita. It really fills my heart to hear that, and the people can also see it as well, or can feel it that way. There's a lot that I could comment on in there. In fact, I totally agree. And again, with everything, you've got to take things with a pinch of salt and adapt them to your context. So of course, this might be a bit difficult to be done with, say, younger learners. But again, it can be used in so many different ways. And like I said, also, I'm not suggesting that we abandon that directive style. We do need some framework, so we do need some direction. It's little ways that we can start sort of mixing it a bit and providing that space. If I can sort of bring it down to earth for everybody, a very quick example in the classroom is the classic, if my background is on language teaching. So say you've got your classic double page spread of activities that you send for homework, right? There's 10 activities in there. I'm really interested in them doing 2 of those because they're particularly useful. So I'm going to say, okay, there's 5 activities. I need you to do 4 and 6, and the other 3, you choose. So I'm already providing choice there. And it's just a very easy way to start implementing those things within a more directive style. So, and then if I may add also, Rita, with one-to-one coaching, not always, but almost always, I use the wheel because it also provides a very clear before and after picture for the client. So towards maybe halfway through the process or at the end of the process, we can bring this back out and say, hey, where are you now? What does your wheel look like now? And it's very tangible. So I totally, see what you mean.
And again, the lovely thing is when the people we're working with set their own targets, they'll be much more motivated to achieve them. Because if we say, If we were to say, well, I think you should do this and then do this and then it's not the same. If it comes from them, they've already bought in, haven't they?
Quite right. Quite right. Absolutely, Rita. I totally agree. Thank you for bringing that home as well. And I want to say thank you for Vicky, who's just shared in the chat as well. It's silence. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we have to practice feeling comfortable in silence, and the fact that we are accompanying through silence. People just need thinking time. And for any of you who coach, one of the most typical answers is, I don't know. But you ask a question and people automatically come up with, I don't know. Have time, go and explore, go and find out what the answer to that is.
And that's a cultural thing, isn't it? Because in Western Europe particularly, we all cut in on each other in a conversation. I mean, if you were Japanese, it would be much more comfortable to tolerate those silences.
Quite right.
And the first time I tried it, I felt uncomfortable, but then I realized the person I was working with didn't. They didn't even notice because they were engaged in what they were doing. I think they didn't notice the silence.
There we go.
They're thinking, right? So we're giving them the opportunity to actually respond and not react.
Yeah,
that's a big.
That's a good one. Respond and not react. Yeah.
And same for ourselves too. So yeah.
Totally. Thank you, Gabriella. Yeah, and that's in line with agency as well, because if you're reacting, then what choice did you have? Is it an answer that's expected socially or whatever the construct is? You know, so yeah, I like that as well. Thank you.
Hint has a hand up.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see. I had the chat over.
It's fine. Yeah, I agree. For example, in my culture in Saudi Arabia, students don't respond at all. So I'm just talking the whole time, although there is activity, but students kept silent. And sometimes I question myself if the student understand what I said, or just they understand, or they didn't understand, but they feel shy. They feel bullying. If they ask stupid question in there, maybe they find a stupid question. So, but maybe after 2-3 days, you will figure it out that students really didn't understand, or because they started to maybe several students ask the same question. And so you figure out, okay, there is a problem. So yeah, it depends on culture, but I don't expect students to answer me because I was waiting for them to answer me. I have low expectation. So if they want to answer, it's fine. If not, I can figure it out through exam, through a question session. Yeah.
Thank you, Hind. I find that very interesting as well in a different teaching context, because I think perhaps to a lot of us, what I was suggesting today entails a bit of a paradigm shift in terms of how we envision education, really, and seeing it as historically very traditional. You know, a lot of the cases, I've also had it with Japanese students. They don't dare interrupt the teacher or have a say in the actual class. The sensei knows all. The teacher knows it all. And, you know, I'm kind of like suggesting the opposite, that we engage them. They've got to be an active part of the learning process. Yes, I might know it all, but what use is it if I'm just telling you? We now know that that doesn't go as deep as an actual engaged mind in the actual learning process. So yeah, it's no small feat, definitely, to kind of like change all of that and manage all of those expectations that our learners might have as well.
You can, as you say, you can start with small steps, can't you? Because it's educating ourselves and them. If you tried to go smack into sort of pure coaching for somebody who's just not aware of what's happening, you
can't do that.
No.
Quite right. Yeah, it just doesn't work. They just don't know what to expect or what's going on. Or yeah, I agree.
Chipping in for a minute on what you said, that, you know, there's a paradigm shift in teaching, and I think it's very palpable. I think everyone's noticing it. Maybe even the big industry drivers, publishers, etc., kind of feeling that there's, you know, a lot going on, which is, you know, not what it used to be like 20-30 years ago. And it's all about the the changing the dynamics of the role and responsibility of the teacher and the student in that space that they share for those 45 minutes, whatever, and beyond that. So what actually happens, because the real learning happens outside the classroom for the learner in certain situations, right? When they actually take the time and energy to, you know, learn for the next lesson, let's say. And so that brings up a lot of questions. How is the work that we do in the class affecting what they do outside the class, which is, I think, a pretty tricky question to answer. I wouldn't try to do that, but creating a sense of agency for the learner is going to impact on that, because it's going to move beyond the walls of the class, because they're going to have those questions sort of resonating, and they're going to say, well, how do I approach this? What would be the best solution for me? You know, and they're going to stay with that agentic environment, learning environment at home or wherever they're learning. That's my kind of 2 cents, and it was just interesting to think through that. So thank you for that. And we've got Carolyn here. Yeah.
Thank you, Gabriela, for sharing that. I'm also reading Caroline. I think she just finished writing. If I can direct everybody or anybody who hasn't already to the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The first chapter is on, or my takeaway from the first chapter is being proactive. And that's a term that I link very closely to agency. If you want to read something that's relatable to agency, that's perhaps a good place to go to.
Covey.
From Covey, yeah. And I think Rita's looking for it by the looks of it.
No,
Okay,
actually,
Caroline.
it's the 8 Secrets of Happiness, but it's similar.
Oh, okay. Well, that's, I'm sure, an interesting read as well.
I haven't got that other one.
I've got mine, but it's I don't have it near me. Let's see, Caroline, we have need to start.
I've got this one.
Ah, lovely. Oh, yes. Mindset. Yeah, for sure. Also.
I think everyone's got something you can just, you know.
I've heard some coaches say that they use the 7 habits for teens. And with some of their coachees or groups, it's more accessible one for the adult.
Absolutely. For the book, the edition for teens is more accessible for adult readers. You mean?
Some of them, especially if it's not. I'm not really sure if it's the language or the concepts or what, but I have heard coaches, they tried it and it worked really well.
I know what my next purchase is going to be. I need to find out. Yeah, thank you, Caroline. Yeah.
Yes.
And I totally agree, Caroline, with what you mentioned to also what you were saying in the chat, wheel of emotions and sensations. Totally. We've hardly mentioned it. I mean, there was one of the benefits in coaching and education was a heightened awareness of emotional intelligence. How integral is that to a functioning human being? So I think we can never do enough on emotional management. So totally, the wheel of emotions and sensations has a potential to work very, very well.
It also can increase their vocabulary.
Quite right.
Effective too, instead of just feeling I'm angry by this change. There can be more fine tuning of it, and it's diminished or sometimes, usually diminished then.
Totally. And also being able to just identify anger, you know, like what is it that I'm feeling? You know, is it anger? Is it frustration? Is it disappointment? Already all of those things. Yeah, it's going to do wonders for their vocab for sure.
There's also the Plutchik's wheel of emotion, which is like, I don't know, 50 emotions identified. Plutchik, I think that's the name of the guy who came up.
I might have a copy of that as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Elena, yes, we can definitely perhaps put all of these books in the chat as well. And well, everyone, I want to thank everyone. I'm very aware of the time. I'm happy to stay on.
I think we're going to be
right. I think, yeah, we'll be strict with the time. But if there were any more, I want to thank everybody for all your contributions and collaboration. Thank you. if you have any further questions, do we have time for further questions, Gabriela?
Well, yes, we can go on. I mean, obviously, if you need to go, then do go. But if you're okay with it, we might have one or two more questions. But usually we sort of limit it to till 7 o'clock. You know, if there's anything that we haven't.
Thank you, everyone.
Helena is asking for the title of the books. I don't know whether that could be sort of gathered. I'm just thinking what we had, but we'll put them together.
I'm going to flash this up just in case anybody needs to leave and you want to scan and have my details.
Yes.
And in the meantime, do ask whatever questions you have. Thank you, everybody. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm really happy that I could at least contribute to the community in this way, if not in person in the June event.
Absolutely.
Ask me questions, please. Sorry, Rita.
No, I'm just doing the.
Oh, you're going to scan. Excellent.
Sorry.
You go ahead. You go ahead.
Yeah, we need
Thank you.
in touch. And of course, Pablo, you said that it's okay to share the slides.
Absolutely. Yeah. Please do. Yeah.
Cool.
Spread the love for sure. If it's helpful in any way, I'm obviously happy that it can be.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so that's really good. Okay.
And the recording's going up on the internet anyway, so
Definitely, it will be up on our YouTube channel together with all the others. We've got 50 plus recordings now, which is quite impressive.
It's
good.
fascinating. Yeah. I've been
on.
going through them bit by bit. Yeah,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
so interesting.
Okay.
Cool.
All
Can I
right.
take any questions? Can I help anybody else? Does anybody need anything more to sort of land it into their context? This idea of how they could perhaps implement agency within your educational context? Perhaps I can help. I don't know.
Or if there's just a comment. I mean, some of you have been a little bit more silent than the others, or not so proactive. but anyone.
If not, you can have my contact details through the QR code. And if you do come up with any questions, I'm always available.
Yep.
So or accessible, let's say. Just get in touch and I'll answer.
Right. Okay.
That's been brilliant.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Rita. Thank you, Heinz.
Okay, let's just flash up the last slide and then we're good.
That's true. My bad. Here we go. Sorry, Gabriela.
So yeah, hopefully we'll be meeting you in Budapest in, well, it's less than 2 months now. So the countdown is around 6 weeks from now. And we're looking forward to seeing everyone. Some of you were in Paris and maybe even in London. It was fantastic. And this year is going to be even bigger, better, bolder in the topics that we're addressing. We're looking at how language coaching is, infiltrating the work that is happening in language education. So it's going to be definitely very exciting to be exploring. We've got lots on emotional intelligence, on what to do with coaches who are not willing to be proactive, to accept the fact that they're being coached. They're expecting teaching. So business aspects, there's going to be lots going on. And I mentioned at the beginning, we've got our coaching cards, which is a new deal, a new little something that can help us with coaching that we're doing. So let's stay in touch. We do have an expert talk next month again, and we'll be sharing details. We're on social media, so let's keep in touch. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. We've had an extended version today, but I think it was very much worth it. And thank you, Pablo, for offering to do this talk, even though, it would have been much better in person in Budapest. But okay, we'll see about next year. Okay, I'm not going to say anything, but
Maybe Ilka 4 is my chance.
Absolutely. Right. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for being here and all your contributions and being active. Thank you very much. And I'll be closing the recording now. And goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
Muchas
Thank you
gracias.
very much. Muchas gracias. Thank you.